When Spotify publicly acknowledged Jungkook's 9.4 billion streams, it wasn't just a statement of numbers, it was a declaration of something irreversible in modern music. That single moment didn't merely confirm his success, it defined the scale of what global artistry can look like when one artist's sound transcends the system that once measured it. Spotify, a platform built on algorithms, data, and global listening patterns, found itself facing a phenomenon that didn't come from strategy, but from connection, a reach so massive that even the largest streaming platform had no choice but to recognize it. The 9.4 billion streams became a new borderless measurement, one that forced the world to see Jungkook not through the lens of nationality or fanbase, but through sound itself. Spotify's acknowledgement was not a gift. It was a reflection of an undeniable fact. There are artists who are celebrated by the industry, and there are artists who make the industry rewrite its language to describe them. Jungkook belongs to the latter. Every era in music history has one artist who reshapes the rules not by rejecting them, but by making them irrelevant. What Jungkook achieved with 9.4 billion streams did exactly that. It was the moment when digital dominance met authenticity. Spotify's recognition symbolized that his voice had crossed beyond playlists and platforms. It was no longer a number. It was proof of permanence in a world built on temporary trends. In streaming culture, numbers are often inflated, debated, or contextualized, but Jungkook's numbers resisted context. They stood on their own, not because of a marketing push, but because each stream represented a real listener returning to his music. 9.4 billion is not the result of curiosity. It's the outcome of consistency. The kind that comes from an artist whose songs become part of people's daily rhythm, quietly replayed across time zones, with no sign of decline. Spotify's acknowledgement carried more meaning than any chart position. The platform is data-driven, neutral by design, yet even neutrality couldn't ignore what Jungkook built. His catalogue had carved its place so deeply into the platform's architecture that recognition became inevitable. When a system designed to measure all artists equally pauses to highlight one, it signals that something rare has happened, something that can't be replicated through formula or timing. It's not just accumulation, it's endurance. Jungkook's songs didn't just perform well upon release, they remained. The numbers reflect retention, a concept most artists struggle to sustain in the age of short attention spans. Spotify's data doesn't just count streams, it tracks engagement over time. The fact that Jungkook's numbers continue to grow long after initial releases means his songs have transcended novelty. They've entered the realm of cultural memory. When the platform acknowledged this milestone, it wasn't simply noting a record, it was affirming longevity, the kind that doesn't rely on virality, but on the subtle power of music that people return to even in silence. Jungkook's sound has that quality, the rare ability to feel personal and universal at once. His streaming power is not a product of hype, it's the result of resonance. The kind of resonance that algorithms can't predict but can't escape either. The streaming world is competitive by design. Every week, thousands of songs fight for attention. Yet among that endless digital noise, Jungkook's music doesn't just appear, it persists. Spotify's algorithms are built to favor engagement, and Jungkook's numbers show a type of engagement that goes beyond the click. The 9.4 billion streams are not just passive plays, they are active choices made by listeners who return again and again, because something in his voice speaks directly to them without translation. Spotify's acknowledgement of that scale effectively shifted the hierarchy of global pop. For years, the platform's highest streamers were dominated by Western artists who benefited from language familiarity and industry proximity. Jungkook broke through those barriers, redefining the global balance of sound. The fact that Spotify, a company rooted in Western markets, recognized his record means that even digital ecosystems have started to reflect a shift toward inclusivity, led not by corporations, but by audiences themselves. 9.4 billion streams aren't a coincidence of fandom size. They are a reflection of global alignment, millions of individual decisions to play, replay, and live with his songs. Spotify's recognition made that truth visible. It wasn't a favor. It was overdue clarity. The platform's acknowledgement validated what the numbers had been saying for months, that Jungkook's music isn't trending, it's transforming. To grasp the significance, imagine Spotify's database as a living organism, every play, every skip, every save forming the pulse of what the world listens to. Jungkook's numbers didn't just appear in that data, they reshaped its rhythm. For a solo artist, breaking billions is one thing, but sustaining billions across singles, collaborations, and global listeners demands a depth of artistry that defies typical metrics. Spotify's recognition was the system admitting that its data alone couldn't explain him. The acknowledgement also carries a silent message about where music is heading. Spotify didn't just congratulate Jungkook, it recognized a shift in dominance from the traditional West-centered model to a truly global one. Jungkook's music didn't adapt to the system adapted to him. That's why this moment isn't just about achievement. It's about the realignment of cultural gravity. Behind that 9.4 billion lies a story of intention. Jungkook's releases weren't random drops. They were carefully built narratives that connected with listeners across emotional and experiential layers. Spotify's recognition, therefore, becomes the mirror of how genuine artistry translates through digital platforms. Every track, every vocal tone, every production choice contributed to a sound that audiences didn't just hear, they inhabited. There's also something poetic in how this acknowledgement arrived. Spotify, known for its silence on individual milestones unless they're historically significant, chose to highlight Jungkook's record. That act, subtle as it was, spoke louder than any press statement. It was a gesture of respect, not from one artist to another, but from the system to the art itself. The 9.4 billion mark also redefines what legacy means in the streaming era. In the past, legacy was built on physical sales, tours, or critical acclaim. Now, it's measured in moments of listening that accumulate into a collective impact. Jungkook's dominance on Spotify proves that modern legacy is not about how loud an artist is, but how long their sound stays alive in people's daily lives. When Spotify recognized him, it indirectly acknowledged something deeper, that the platform itself benefits from his presence. Jungkook's music drives engagement, attracts diverse listeners, and shapes global playlists. His consistency gives the platform cultural credibility. In that sense, recognition wasn't charity, it was balance. Spotify needed to mark this moment because it represented both a creative peak and a commercial truth. Jungkook's streaming power also challenges the perception of what global success should look like. It's no longer about fitting into Western templates of stardom. Spotify's recognition confirmed that an artist from Seoul can lead the global streaming landscape without compromise, without diluting identity, without adjusting to anyone's expectations. 9.4 billion is not just a record, it's a rewrite of the narrative. This milestone has another layer of meaning. Each billion in that number represents more than just scale, it symbolizes trust. The kind of trust built between an artist and listeners who feel seen through sound. Spotify's algorithms noticed that pattern. A pattern so human that it resisted being reduced to data. That's what makes this acknowledgement extraordinary. It isn't just about analytics catching up to popularity, it's about technology learning to respect emotion embedded in art. And perhaps that's where Jungkook's real impact lies. He didn't chase numbers. Numbers found him because the world couldn't stop replaying what felt honest. Spotify's acknowledgement was simply the world's way of saying, "We heard it too." In recognizing that, Spotify didn't just honor a number, it adapted to a new reality. The platform's acknowledgement symbolizes a recalibration, a recognition that artistry, not algorithm, ultimately drives longevity. For Jungkook, this moment isn't about dominance, it's about definition. He has defined what the future of streaming success looks like. Authenticity amplified by accessibility, passion transformed into global metrics. There's also a subtle irony in this moment. For years, global recognition was something artists sought from institutions, awards, charts, critics. Now one artist has inverted that structure. Spotify, the world's most influential streaming platform, found itself seeking recognition from him, needing to validate the data that he alone redefined. That reversal of power explains why Jungkook's 9.4 billion streams are more than just an accolade. They are proof of cultural shift. The significance extends even further when considering Spotify's own history. The platform has celebrated milestones by artists across decades, but few have achieved numbers so vast in such a concentrated timeline. Jungkook's pace is unmatched. His ability to generate billions within years redefines what it means to grow in a digital age saturated with content. The data tells a story of exponential connection, of music that doesn't need translation or context to be understood. And that's where Jungkook's artistry stands apart. He didn't adapt to fit the global market, he expanded it. His sound pulled new listeners into the ecosystem, diversifying Spotify's audience and proving that music's center of gravity no longer belongs to one region. That's why the acknowledgement wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. Spotify recognized not just what Jungkook achieved, but what he represented, the future direction of global listening. Through this acknowledgement, the platform essentially confirmed that music is no longer about domination, it's about distribution. Jungkook's 9.4 billion streams came from all corners of the world, without dependence on language, label politics, or gatekeeping. It's the most organic form of globalization driven by sound, sustained by sincerity, and witnessed by the platform that tracks every second of playback. If there's one truth that emerges from this record, it's that Jungkook didn't chase Spotify's validation. Spotify needed his. The 9.4 billion streams became a mirror that reflected the platform's evolution from a tool for discovery into a record of human emotion at scale. Jungkook turned that system into something larger than data. He turned it into a story. The recognition from Spotify marks the convergence of two forces. One technological, one human. Technology provided the platform. Jungkook provided the permanence. His sound filled the empty structure of algorithms with meaning, transforming abstract code into shared experience. The platform may have the power to count streams, but only artistry can give those numbers life. That's why this milestone feels like a cultural punctuation mark, not an ending, but a declaration that the rules of global music consumption have changed. Spotify, by recognizing Jungkook, admitted that its own future will be shaped by artists who create connection beyond borders. The 9.4 billion streams are not just evidence of success, they are the foundation of a new standard. In the years to come, others will chase similar numbers, but few will replicate the essence that made this moment possible. Jungkook's achievement isn't repeatable because it wasn't manufactured. It was earned through time, trust, and truth. Spotify's acknowledgement will be remembered not as a single event, but as a shift, the point where music became borderless, not in theory, but in measurable fact, and in that, Jungkook stands alone.